Alexandra, it's so interesting that this comes out at the same time that you have this piece you put together for Vice where you interviewed all kinds of outgoing members of Congress, the likes of which we've heard from before, and they are the ones who've had criticism of the president. They've all commented on how uncomfortable the president's comments have made them in the past. What did you hear from them as they're going, which might inform us as to why Mitt Romney is speaking today?
Well, what I think is really interesting is sucked into the vortex. Now Mitt Romney is being sucked into the vortex. I like the idea. Washington is an ecosystem, right? And there are rules. And first you have to learn how to play the game, then you have to learn how to win the game, right? And so what my whole show is about is talking to members of Congress that can teach us how the game is played. Washington has a certain game book that you have to follow. Mitt Romney has thrown that playbook out the window on his first day here, right? He's not even here and he's already ripped up the playbook. So I think it's a really interesting conversation about how you play this game. Trump has completely destroyed all the rules of engagement. So there are no rules left. Everything, it's my 12-year-old would be, more qualified to tell you about the rules of how Washington is played than this president. So it's an interesting moment in time where the rules of Washington are being completely rewritten of how the game is played. And the reason I was here was to tell you about all I learned from, I interviewed all the outgoing members of Congress about what they learned from being in Congress. When if you knew now when you ran, there's a whole new crop of freshmen coming in, right? So the question is, what do they need to know? Including Mitt Romney. He's new to Washington. It's different than being governor. It's different than running for president. It's a whole new game that you need to learn how to play. And so my show is just to teach all the new members of Congress coming in how to play the game.
And can you boil that down to a headline of what rule they need to know most in this day and age?
Be nice. Make friends. This is a town where you have to make friends if you want to accomplish anything. I mean, you can go on Twitter and make enemies. That's easy. But it's true what they told you about what you learn in kindergarten. You have to make friends. You can't come in burning. You have to make some friends and get along if you want to accomplish anything. If you want to accomplish anything. There's one thing about getting on CNN. That's one thing. You can be a show horse or a workout horse. If you want to get something accomplished, you have to actually make friends and try and accomplish some, if you want to get some legislation passed, it involves working with the other members of your party and with the other party. I know that sounds really elementary, but it seems like a lot of members of Congress don't even know that.
I'm so confused, these words of which you're speaking right now. My head can't take it. And McKay, Alexandra's mother is going to be in the Situation Room today with President Trump. We've learned of this meeting that the president wants to hold with congressional leaders to talk about negotiations to reopen the government. I'm struck by the fact that he's having it in the Situation Room. Clearly, he wants to create this dramatic setting. What are you expecting? Some kind of an ambush here?
Well, I think that it's clear that President Trump is trying to message this as a national security issue, which is how he's kind of always framed immigration, and that's probably part of why he's doing this. But the other thing here is that, we're entering this new period of divided government where Democrats are going to control the House of Representatives. We've already had a fair amount of dysfunction. This is not even the first government shutdown in an era of unified Republican control of Congress and the White House. So, I think there's more dysfunction to come, but I also think the Democratic leaders, both in the Senate and the House, don't have a lot of incentive to show President Trump that they can be easily pushed around by him, right? And so, as people return from their vacations, plug back into the news a little bit more, as political heat over this shutdown intensifies, I think there is going to be a good amount of pressure on both parties to try to strike a deal. But I also think that that Pelosi and Schumer aren't going to be quick to give into President Trump's demands to fund a border wall. I mean, this is going to be, there are going to be a lot of fights over the next 2 years, and they're going to want to show that they can't be easily, bullied into doing whatever President Trump wants.
Errol, I'm not even sure it is a border wall. Still, I mean, we've been talking about how this is a moving target. Chuck Schumer said that negotiating with the president is like negotiating with Jell-O, because even his definition of the wall changes all the time. It started as 1,000 miles of a 32-foot cement wall. Then it became 700 miles. Then it went down to 500 miles. Then it was steel slats. Here's where the president's head was yesterday, which I think gets to my point. Border security and the wall thing And shutdown is not where Nancy Pelosi wanted to start her tenure as Speaker. Let's make a deal. Why didn't he say the wall thingy?
Yeah, look, the president is looking for a way out of this. He's looking for a way to claim victory, and he'll need some small kind of something, whether it's a beaded curtain, as Nancy Pelosi put it, or slats,
a folded
or a
divider.
It could be anything. And the reality is, if you think back to when we overheard or we got access to the transcript of a conversation that he had with his Mexican counterpart a couple of years ago, right, where he's saying, look, just say that we can do it. Give me something so I can go back to my supporters and say that we're making progress on the wall. Nancy Pelosi is much too sharp to be trimmed in that way. She's going to simply, I think, force him to acknowledge publicly at some point that he's not getting his wall. He's going to have to turn it into something else. He's going to have to calm down his base. He's going to have to take whatever small amount of money he might be able to wrest out of Congress, and that's going to be it. And let's hold out hope, by the way, Allison, that in the Situation Room, that the professionals in the national security staff are going to make clear at least some facts on which they can agree about tunnels, about drones, about the numbers who are coming, about whether there is any kind of factual basis that they can all agree on. And then they'll get to the hard politics. But the hard politics are the president wants somebody to rescue him from this blind alley that he has walked down. He wants somebody to give him a victory. And, we'll see if and how he gets anything out of all of this.
I love, Alexander, how you sat here patiently and waited as we've spoken about the incoming Speaker of the House, who happens to be one of the people who raised you. But if you can tell us what Speaker Pelosi thinks about going in.
John, we have known you for 2 decades. Do you think I'm the person that's going to come on CNN and talk about my mother? Is that who you think I am?
I'm asking you, you are a fantastic political reporter. How does she approach meetings with President Trump, A? And B, just what are your feelings about this person who you know quite well becoming Speaker of the House for a second time?
She'll cut your head off and you won't even know you're bleeding. That's all you need to know about her. No one ever won betting against Nancy Pelosi. She's persevered. You got to give her credit. No matter what you think of her, you have to give her credit because think about it. Think about all those presidents she's endured, right? She was the Bush, the Clinton, she's been through it all. So she's been around. This is not her first rodeo, as your friend George Bush would say. So she knows what she's doing. And that's should make you sleep at night, knowing that at least somebody in this town knows what they're doing.
And how do you feel, given that this person whom you just said will cut off your neck and you won't even know you're bleeding, will be the Speaker of the House for a second time tomorrow?
Well, I think it says a lot about if you look out into the crowd, who you're going to see in that crowd. It's not just her. Think of all those women you're going to see. It's going to be, when Nancy Pelosi came to town, it was a boys' club. That was 30 years ago. It's a boys' club. Look around tomorrow. It's going to be a whole new America. You're going to see something so magical that you have not seen before. I know Trump gets all the attention and his wall, but if you think about it, when you think about how this country is changing fundamentally, when you look at who's representing us, it's going to be a beautiful menagerie. Is that even a word? Yeah,
yes,
I think it is.
Well played.
It's going to be, my 12-year-old will be proud. I got that off the 12 words every middle schooler should know. It's going to be a beautiful America, and I think we should all be proud of that. And we should just take one moment to exhale and say, we should be really proud of ourselves because we have a beautiful looking Congress.
All right, Alexandra, Errol, McKay, thank you all very much for the reporting and the insights.